I remember back in 5th grade, you would walk into class and see a single sentence up on the board, and you knew that your teacher was going to ask you to write a 5-page book report, and it had to be on her desk by the next morning. Yeah, well, thanks for keeping that alive for me. Seriously. Everything I'm about to tell you is absolutely true. No, just kidding. It's actually my interpretation. But I am going to show you inside the books where I find this information. The writing that you're seeing there that Bilbo is writing is obviously in English. Also below on the map that Tolkien made, there's English lettering and writing on that as well. But what if I told you I don't believe that the Hobbits wrote this way? Would you be interested to know what I think? Let's take a look. The first thing we need to address is there is a huge difference between language and lettering. To give you a relatable example of what I'm talking about, I will show you using the Roman alphabet. So most of us, if we speak English, are familiar with it. We are familiar with the Roman alphabet, the ABCs. Using the Roman alphabet, if we take the word hello in English, in Spanish, that would be hola. In Italian, it might be ciao. So you can see many different languages can share the same lettering system. Now let's apply that same principle to the Tengwar writing system and the languages we find in Tolkien's Middle-earth. This is not an exhaustive list, but it is a short version of some of the languages that are listed throughout Middle-earth. So the Elvish languages, Quenya, Sindarin, and then we have the Mannish language of Westron, and obviously we have the Dwarvish languages. The two lettering systems that are mentioned inside of Tolkien's works are the Tengwar writing system and the Cirth. The Tengwar was used for the Elvish writing systems, and we will see in a moment in the appendices that the Westron language was also written using Tengwar. We also will see that the Dwarvish language was written in Cirth, so we'll also show that. So let's do that now. So using my copy of Lord of the Rings, which includes all of the books, we will open up to the appendices. All right, the first thing we'll notice in Appendix F, the languages. If you go back one appendix to Appendix E, writing and spelling. Now, there's a difference between language and the writing systems, which I'm calling lettering, and you'll see more details about this in a moment. So the first line in Appendix F says, the language represented in this history by English was the Westron, or common speech of the Westlands of Middle-earth in the Third Age. So this is the language, basically saying in the movies, the books, if it's showing English, it's just representation, because this is what the modern world, the common language is. So we read English, we're reading it right now, and that's why he chose, and he's telling you that the languages that are represented anywhere by English, it's supposed to be Westron, or the common speech. To verify this further, we'll look in Appendix E, and Tolkien says the Westron or common speech has been entirely translated into English. That means it had to have been something else. It's translated into English equivalents, right? So this Westron or common speech, this was something else other than English. Let's look at what it was, and let's talk about who used it. All right, we're back in Appendix F under the subsection of Hobbits. Tolkien says the hobbits of the Shire and of Bree had at this time for probably 1,000 years adopted the common speech. They used it in their own manner freely and carelessly, obviously, though the more learned among them had still at their command a more formal language when occasion required. You'll also notice that Tolkien says there is no record of any language peculiar to hobbits, meaning they didn't really have their own. They just, like it says here, they quickly adopted the common speech after they entered Eriador. So they basically just took up the language of the common man, the common speech. And at this time where they were, it was Westerron. Now, the only two writing systems that Tolkien describes is the Tangor. Here's the Tangor chart. It's also known as the Feanorian letters. And of course, the other one being the Dwarvish was the Cirth. And here's the charts for that. Everybody has seen this. So I want to give you a practical example. This is the West Gate inscription, and this is usually when a lot of the first-time readers get a glance at the word Melon, which means friend. What I find very interesting about this Elvish writing on this gate is what Frodo says about it. So let's take a look at that. So Frodo is looking at the gate and he says, "What does the writing say?" asked Frodo, who was trying to decipher the inscription on the arch. "I thought I knew the elf letters, but I cannot read these." So Frodo, a hobbit, is very familiar with elf letters. I believe that's what they used to write the Westron common speech, common language. That's what they used. And what they're looking at here on this gate, Gandalf tells him the words are in the elven tongue. Again, tongue, it's a language of the west of Middle-earth in the elder days, Gandalf said. So what's happening here is Frodo, who can read elf letters and is used to using elf letters for writing because they write the common speech language that they know with elf letters, is looking at this gate and he's saying, "Hey, I can write using this writing system, and I thought I knew this, but I cannot read these." In other words, he can't read the language that's up there. So Gandalf has to give them the explanation of what it's saying. So to answer the question, did the hobbits write Elvish? I don't think that they wrote Elvish language. I think that they spoke a common speech tongue in the land, which was Westerron, and I believe that they were familiar with elf letters, elf lettering, thus the Tangor, and I think that that's what they used as a writing system for the common speech at the time, since they adapted to it so well. Now, this is my theory, this is my interpretation. I'm always open for anyone that wants to challenge that and tell me what they think, so do so in the comments below. Thank you for your time, and I hope this has been educational. Follow me for more Elvish writing facts.